Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. Most people think that when you don't speak, you're being weak, but that's far from the truth. Real silence is not about hiding your thoughts. It's about mastering your emotions. It's about knowing that not every situation deserves your voice, and not every battle requires your energy. The loudest person in the room might make noise, but the calm one makes impact. Silence is not the absence of words, it's the presence of wisdom. When you learn to be silent in moments of chaos, you begin to hear what most people miss. You start to sense the energy of the room, the intention behind the words, and the truth that hides between sentences. You begin to see that silence isn't about doing nothing. It's about observing everything. Because in stillness, your mind sharpens, your emotions settle. And suddenly, what looked confusing becomes clear. There's a strength that comes from holding your peace when everyone expects you to explode. People will test your calm to measure their own importance. They will try to drag you into their storm just to prove they can shake you. But when you remain silent, you refuse to be moved by their chaos. You show that your energy is not for sale. You show that you've matured beyond the need for constant reaction. Silence gives you the upper hand because it confuses noise. When people can't read your emotions, they can't predict your next move. And when they can't predict you, they can't control you. That's the beauty of restraint. It keeps your power in your hands. The moment you react, you hand over control. But when you stay silent, you keep your authority. There's also a kind of silence that speaks louder than anger. It's the silence of self-respect. The silence that says, I will not lower my energy to meet your drama. It's the silence that refuses to justify, argue, or prove. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You understand that some explanations are unnecessary when your peace is priceless. In silence, your spirit finds balance. You begin to notice that reacting quickly often leads to regret, but responding wisely brings peace. Silence gives you space to choose wisdom over emotion. It allows you to respond from your higher self, not your hurt self. It's in those quiet pauses that growth happens, because silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. When you don't rush to speak, you give your thoughts time to mature. You allow your emotions to cool before they burn bridges. And you give others the opportunity to reveal themselves without interruption. Many times, silence exposes what talking hides. People tell you everything when you're quiet enough to listen. The power of silence also teaches you how to control the atmosphere around you. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. Instead of absorbing the temperature of others, you set the tone with your calm. Silence builds authority because it shows that you're not easily influenced. You're grounded, stable, and unbothered by temporary storms. You start to realize that silence protects your vision. While others waste energy explaining, arguing, and defending, you conserve your focus for what truly matters. You don't need to convince anyone when you're committed to your purpose. Silence becomes your shield against distractions. It keeps your mind clear and your mission pure. There's also wisdom in knowing when to speak. Silence doesn't mean muteness, it means discernment. You know that your words carry weight, so you use them with intention. When you do speak, it's precise, powerful, and purposeful. Because you've trained yourself not to speak just to be heard, but to speak to create change. Silence trains your emotions to obey your purpose. It teaches you that not everything requires an instant reply. Not every criticism needs defense. Not every attack deserves acknowledgement. When you master silence, you no longer waste emotional energy on things that don't advance your destiny. You walk away from arguments not because you're weak, but because you value your peace more than proving a point. There's a discipline that grows in the quiet. The discipline of patience, the discipline of timing, the discipline of letting the noise around you die out while you stay consistent in your focus. You realize that silence is the breeding ground for clarity, creativity, and confidence. It's where you find the courage to stand still while others panic. When you start embracing silence, you also start hearing your inner voice louder. The world becomes noisy with opinions, judgments, and fears, but silence reconnects you to your own truth. You stop living to be understood and start living to understand. You realize that the one who listens more learns more. People often mistake silence for emptiness, but silence is full of power. It's the space where vision is born, where healing begins, and where real transformation takes root. It's where you start trusting timing instead of tension. Silence doesn't delay you, it develops you. And the more you practice silence, the more your energy shifts. You no longer react to negativity, you rise above it. You begin to understand that silence is not weakness. It's wisdom under control. It's the calm that commands storms. It's the pause that protects purpose. And once you master it, nothing external can disturb your internal peace again. Emotional detachment is one of the highest forms of self-mastery a person can develop. It's not about feeling nothing, it's about feeling deeply, but not being ruled by those feelings. It's learning how to stand in the middle of chaos and not let the chaos live inside of you. When you become emotionally detached, you begin to see life through clarity, not through confusion. You stop reacting to every situation and start responding with wisdom. Many people confuse emotional detachment with coldness, but they are not the same. Coldness comes from fear, but detachment comes from strength. It means you understand your emotions, but you also understand that emotions are temporary. You can feel anger without becoming it. You can feel pain without living in it. You can love without losing yourself in that love. That's power. When you detach emotionally, you take back the steering wheel of your life. You stop letting outside circumstances decide your inner condition. You no longer let someone else's behavior dictate your peace, because peace that depends on people will always disappear with people. But peace that comes from within can't be touched by anyone. Emotional detachment allows you to protect that kind of peace. Clarity begins to appear when you stop taking things personally. Every opinion, every criticism, every rejection, none of it defines who you are. People's words are often reflections of their own state of mind, not yours. When you detach, you stop absorbing other people's energy and start observing it. You become aware of what belongs to you and what doesn't, and that awareness saves you from countless emotional battles. The truth is, emotions are powerful tools, but terrible masters. When you're too attached to an outcome, you suffer twice. Once when you fear losing it, and again when it changes. Detachment teaches you to give your best without being consumed by the result. It allows you to focus on your effort, not your expectations, because freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from surrendering what you can't control. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care wisely. You still love, but you love from a place of security, not desperation. You still give, but you give without draining yourself. You still help, but you know when to step back. This balance keeps you whole. You learn that giving everything to everyone leaves you empty, and that boundaries are not walls, they are gates of peace. When you master detachment, you master perspective. You no longer react from pain, you respond from purpose. You see the lesson in the loss, the wisdom in the waiting, and the blessing in the delay. You start to understand that everything that leaves makes room for something greater. Detachment teaches you to trust the flow of life instead of fighting against it. It's in detachment that your strength grows. When you stop clinging to what you can't change, you become light. You stop being tied down by resentment or regret. You no longer chase closure from people who are incapable of giving it. You create your own closure by accepting what is. That acceptance isn't weakness, it's emotional intelligence. It's the realization that peace is more valuable than being right. In a world that thrives on reaction, detachment becomes your secret advantage. While others argue, you analyze. While others panic, you plan. While others break, you breathe. That calmness separates leaders from followers and peacekeepers from chaos carriers. Emotional detachment trains you to act, not out of impulse, but out of intention. You start noticing how much energy is wasted in overthinking and overreacting. Every time you let your emotions take control, you hand your power to the very thing that disturbed you. But when you stay detached, you remain grounded. You move through the storm without becoming the storm. You see situations as experiences, not definitions of your worth. This kind of detachment gives you emotional freedom. You no longer need validation to feel valuable. You stop chasing approval and start attracting respect. People sense your calm. They see that you're not easily swayed and that stillness demands attention. Emotional detachment shifts the energy in every room you enter. It's the quiet confidence that says, I'm not here to react, I'm here to rise. You begin to realize that life will always test your balance. People will misunderstand your peace as pride and your silence as indifference. But you'll know that neither is true. You've simply learned that not everything deserves a response. You've learned that your emotional health is your responsibility, not the world's. And you're finally living from the inside out. Detachment also sharpens your decision making. When emotions run high, logic runs low. But when your emotions are steady, your choices become clear. You stop acting from fear and start moving from faith. You stop rushing to fix things and start trusting the process. Emotional detachment builds patience, the kind that waits without worry and hopes without hurry. Through this practice, you start to appreciate silence more. You realize that sometimes the best reaction is no reaction. Sometimes walking away is louder than shouting. Sometimes peace is the loudest answer to conflict. Emotional detachment helps you choose that peace over and over until it becomes your natural state. And in that stillness, you discover who you really are. You're not your feelings. You're not your mistakes. You're not your fears. You are the awareness behind all of them. The calm observer who remains steady no matter what the world throws your way. That's what emotional detachment truly gives you. Clarity, freedom, an unshakable peace that no one can take away. Calm is not something you're born with. It's something you build. It's a strength that is forged in the middle of pressure, pain, and unpredictability. Calm is a discipline, not a mood. It's a decision you make when your emotions want to take control. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, you're strengthening that discipline. Calmness is not weakness. It's a form of power that only the mature understand. When you start to value peace over proving a point, you begin to grow. You realize that calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough not to let temporary emotions destroy permanent peace. Anyone can explode when life gets hard, but it takes mastery to remain steady when everything around you is shaking. Calm is not found in avoiding storms, but in learning how to stand tall in the middle of them. You train calm the same way you train muscle, through resistance. Every challenge, every argument, every unexpected delay is a workout for your composure. The more you practice patience, the stronger your inner peace becomes. Calmness develops when you learn to control your breathing in chaos, when you choose grace over aggression, and when you stop letting other people's behavior dictate your energy. People will always test your calm. Some will do it intentionally, some unconsciously. They will bring drama, create tension, and stir confusion just to see if they can pull you out of character. But that's where your discipline comes in. You learn to respond, not react. You understand that your peace is too expensive to be wasted on things that don't matter. Calm becomes your armor, protecting you from emotional warfare. When you start practicing calmness, you begin to separate your emotions from your actions. You might feel anger, but you don't act out of it. You might feel pressure, but you don't make rush decisions. Calm gives you control over your responses, and that control gives you power. The person who can stay calm when others panic automatically becomes the leader in any situation. Staying calm doesn't mean you're detached from reality. It means you see reality more clearly. When emotions run high, judgment runs low. Calmness sharpens your perspective. It allows you to think with reason instead of reaction. It lets you see beyond the surface to the truth underneath. That's why calm people often make the best choices. They see with clarity, not with chaos. There's a calm that comes from understanding that not everything deserves your energy. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to fix every misunderstanding. You don't have to respond to every opinion. Calmness gives you permission to protect your focus. You begin to realize that silence is sometimes the most powerful answer you can give. Calm also teaches you timing. It teaches you that patience is not passive, it's preparation. The calm person doesn't rush opportunities or force outcomes. They wait with confidence, knowing that peace is the soil where right decisions grow. While everyone else is running on impulse, the calm one is guided by intention. That difference changes everything. When you stay calm under pressure, you're not pretending everything is fine. You're choosing not to let fear drive your decisions. Calmness doesn't remove the problem, but it gives you the stability to handle it wisely. It gives you the mental space to see solutions instead of drowning in emotions. Calm transforms confusion into clarity. You start to notice how calm changes your relationships. When you stop reacting emotionally, you stop feeding unnecessary conflict. You stop matching people's anger and start influencing their energy instead. Calm people don't enter rooms to prove themselves. They enter rooms that already feel their presence. Because calmness is not loud, but it's always felt. Calmness also brings consistency. When your emotions stop controlling you, your focus becomes steady. You no longer live on emotional highs and lows. You live on principles. Calm people are dependable because their reactions don't depend on mood. They depend on mindset. That consistency creates confidence both in yourself and in others. As you strengthen your calm, you begin to realize how much energy is saved by not reacting to every disturbance. Every time you choose patience over panic, you invest in peace. You stop chasing control of circumstances and start mastering control of yourself. That inner balance becomes your greatest advantage in a world addicted to reaction. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel the fire. It means you've learned how to walk through it without getting burned. It's knowing that you can experience emotion without being enslaved by it. You can acknowledge frustration, disappointment, or anger without allowing it to dictate your next move. Calmness gives you the ability to act with purpose, not from pressure. Eventually, calm becomes your default state. You find that even when life throws storms your way, you no longer get swept away by them. You observe, adjust, and move forward with a steady spirit. You stop needing to control everything and start trusting yourself to handle anything. That quiet confidence becomes unshakable. Calm is not something you find. It's something you build every day through awareness, patience, and discipline. It's forged through challenges, refined through waiting, and proven in adversity. Every situation that tries to break your calm is actually helping you strengthen it. And once you've trained yourself to remain composed when everything is falling apart, you become untouchable in a world that thrives on reaction. Peace is not something that just happens. It's something you intentionally create and protect. It's not the absence of noise. It's the strength to remain centered when the world is spinning around you. Peace is not found in perfect conditions. It's found in perfect control of your inner state. The moment you realize that your calmness determines your clarity, you begin to understand that peace is not passive. It's powerful. When you start valuing peace over drama, your whole life begins to shift. The things that used to trigger, you lose their grip. You stop chasing validation and start nurturing stillness. You no longer let small things steal big moments. Peace is the quiet confidence that says, I don't need to react to prove my strength. It's knowing that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to remain still. Peace gives you perspective. It allows you to step back and see things for what they really are, not what your emotions make them appear to be. You begin to see the patterns behind people's behavior instead of taking everything personally. You realize that some people aren't trying to hurt you. They're just expressing their own pain. That realization frees you from resentment and keeps you grounded in compassion instead of chaos. When you make peace your priority, you stop negotiating it for temporary emotions. You stop letting anger, fear, or insecurity interrupt your focus. You stop trying to control what's outside of you and start mastering what's inside of you. Peace becomes your protection. It guards your energy, your focus, and your purpose. Once you have it, you stop trading it for attention or approval. Peace is not weakness, it's strength under full control. It takes more power to remain calm than it does to fight back. Anyone can argue, but it takes real discipline to stay quiet when ego wants to speak. Peace doesn't mean you avoid conflict. It means you approach it from a place of wisdom, not war. You begin to understand that your energy is too sacred to be wasted on things that won't matter tomorrow. The more peace you carry within, the less affected you are by the world around you. You stop being moved by gossip, noise, or negativity. You start walking with a different presence, a quiet authority that doesn't demand respect but naturally commands it. People feel you're calm before you speak. They sense that you're not shaken by temporary storms because your foundation is rooted deep. Peace also sharpens your focus. When your mind is calm, your vision becomes clear. You start to hear your own thoughts instead of the world's distractions. You begin to make decisions from clarity, not confusion. Peace gives you the mental space to plan, to think, to create. It's the ground where wisdom grows and where great ideas are born. When you live in peace, you stop reacting to people. You start understanding them. You stop letting emotions control your words and start choosing silence as your language. Peace teaches you to listen more than you speak, to observe more than you respond. It allows you to see the root instead of the reaction, and that insight keeps you ahead of the noise. Peace doesn't mean your life is easy. It means you've learned how to handle difficulty differently. You still face problems, but you don't face them with panic. You've learned that your reaction determines your reality. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this teaching me? That mindset transforms stress into strength and pressure into power. When peace lives inside you, you stop waiting for things to calm down before you feel calm. You become the calm. You stop depending on perfect timing or perfect people to feel stable. You build your peace from within so nothing external can shake it. That's when you realize the power was never outside of you. It was always within you, waiting to be protected. Peace is also a form of confidence. It says, I trust myself enough to stay still when everything else is moving. It's quiet assurance, not loud arrogance. Peace gives you patience because you know that rushing creates mistakes and waiting creates miracles. It's a deep trust that everything working against you might actually be working for you if you stay still long enough to see it unfold. The more peaceful you become, the more magnetic your presence grows. People are drawn to peace because it's rare in a world addicted to noise. They'll come to you for advice, for clarity, for calm. Not because you have all the answers, but because your spirit reminds them what centeredness feels like. Peace silently influences everything around it without needing recognition. When you live from a place of peace, your decisions become deliberate. You no longer act out of fear, insecurity, or urgency. You act out of alignment. Peace removes the desperation that leads to mistakes. It teaches you to move with grace, to pause with purpose, and to speak only when words will add value. You realize that peace is not something you chase. It's something you embody. Peace also brings healing. When your mind is calm, your body follows. When your thoughts are gentle, your energy softens. The storms inside you begin to quiet down. And in that stillness, your spirit starts to rebuild itself. You start forgiving faster, letting go easier, and breathing deeper. You stop living in the past and start existing fully in the present. And the more you protect that peace, the more you start to notice how strong it makes you. Peace is not a retreat from life. It's a powerful way to live it. It's the steady rhythm beneath chaos, the quiet strength behind confidence, the stillness that moves mountains. Once you understand that peace is the foundation of true power, you never again allow anyone or anything to take it from you.